Yeah. Basically, I'm going to show how the calculations will be made when you have uh, to champions. I always wanted to say prime eternus, but could be any champions. Um, yeah, to breed a new champion. So we basically are going to watch the family of those champions. So we have a Nilgra here and a Vitra, and the essence of those champions. And yeah, the progeny will be of one of those two, and it's a 50-50 chance. So I think this is nothing to really dive into. You toss a coin, and then you have your result. What's going to be way more interesting is to be going over the 6 main traits. So claws, fangs, horns, tail, warpaint, and wings. And what I have here is now the dominant parts on top. So the dominant parts are those that you currently would see on your Prime Eternal or Champion. And the recessive parts, they are the recessive 1 and the recessive 2 parts, which is basically the same thing again. But every part has something, so there's no part that is not there. But those are the things that are still to be revealed and that we're going to be able to see on the Champions.io homepage. So I just made up some values in here just for the sake of the examples. And yeah, basically same thing with Vitra here. Those are the stats you'll be able to see on OpenSea or wherever. And those are the stats that are yet unknown, and therefore yeah, just put some random stuff out there. Just for the sake of your understanding, I think the symbols are pretty self-explanatory, and the rarities: C for common, R for rare, E for epic, and D for divine. And you'll notice some have yeah, just the usual black letters or black colored text, and the highlighted text, which is either yellow or orange, stands for a part that is pure. So these 3 parts, for instance, are pure parts because they match the core essence of the champion. So just write it on top here, so we have it. So this is a
So if the part matches, it's usually pure. Is what you're saying? That's like a general rule of thumb.
yeah, exactly. So purity on a champion. This champion has 3 purity because 3 of the parts match the core essence. That's how the purity number works.
Oh, okay, that's cool. See, I didn't know that. I thought that was something unrelated, but that makes sense.
See, something you learned that doesn't even have to do with breeding directly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the great Pura is educating everybody.
Okay. So basically, we also will be seeing a certain boost or multiplier on certain weightings later, depending on the purity. So for first champion, the boost will be 7%, so we'll have a multiplier of 1.07. And for those not knowing, in Europe, the comma is the separator between decimals. So for the Americans, this will be a dot or a point in here. We use the comma. And yeah, for the second champion, it doesn't have any arcane part on it. So it has no purity and therefore won't get any boosts on the base
Question.
weightings.
On the boost, is that those made up numbers, or these are numbers from the white paper?
These are numbers from the breeding white paper, if you will.
Gotcha.
So there's that little chart, and where the numbers aren't completely clear, but I have those validated. And those have the asterisks next to them that they are up for change, and I guess pretty much everything in here is up for change. So I'm only going from the things we currently are working with or knowing. But yeah, just to stress it out again, this stuff isn't set in stone, so certainly some stuff that may change before being finalized. So yeah, let's just go ahead and build a new champion, and let's just assume that it's an Ilgra. I put it in here, but this doesn't really matter, and that's going to be Death Ilgra. Could be a Arcane Ilgra or Death Vitra or an Arcane Vitra, any of these combinations. But let's just go with this for this example. And then the only thing we basically have to fill out to finish our new champion is the traits we have in here, and all the tiers from dominant, so the traits that are being seen right now, and those recessive genes that currently are hidden. And to do this, we basically have been given a recipe that on first sight might not be completely easy to understand. So we're just doing this step for step. So this should be easily understandable then. I'll just put this over here. Okay. So let's just go and do this step by step. So for each part, the dominant gene is selected from a probability table, which is comprised of the dominant recessive 1 and recessive 2 genes of both parents. So for each part, so let's start with the claw part, we're going to take the dominant recessive and recessive 2 genes. So these 3 from this parent and these 3 from the other parent, because it says from both parents. Then it says the probability table is then modified by a purity bonus for any parts that have matching purity. Okay, let's see. So this part has a matching purity. You can see it because it's yellow, or arcane in this case for the Vitra. But since the Prime Eternal here has no purity, the boost is 0. So basically the multiplier is just 1. We don't change its value. For the Ilgra, we have a rare part, which is pure. So since the Ilgra has 3 purity, or boost of 7%, or multiplier of 7%, we put this multiplier in here, because this will add the 7%. So then the dominant gene of a part can be null when the champion's family doesn't have that specific part. So it's either this column or this column, depending on which champion we're looking at. We're going to make this example later on too. And then even if the dominant gene of the part is null, there will still be recessive genes for the part. Okay, this basically only says that even if one part isn't set here, it still has the genes, the recessive genes for that part. One more thing I just forgot to do. Okay, we said that the progeny will be an Ilgra, and Ilgras don't have wings. So the dominant part of the wings will certainly be none. This is 100%. This is the only thing that's not up for RNG anymore. Basically, the only RNG that's in there is it going to be an Ilgra or Vitra. So yeah, going on these parts here. Those numbers here, I have them from the breeding paper too. So the chance that a given parent passes on its dominant part is 40% at its base value. The chance to pass on the first recessive part is 7.5%, and the chance to pass on the second recessive part is 2.5%. So this all adds up to 50. Same thing for the other parent. But there's...
Let me ask you this. So
Yeah.
are we getting like PE babies, or are they going to be like champions?
They're going to be champions.
Champions, okay. So one tier down.
They basically will be starting at the lowest tier, I would assume. So we don't have
Gotcha.
details on that yet. My guess is still that Grunts will be the free-to-play version and will not be able to ascend. And then you have the, I don't know, champions is the general term for everything. And then there are challengers, which I believe all breeds will be, but might be a higher tier 2 since we are prime eternalists. I don't know if this is even determined yet. But yeah, at the lowest level it would be a challenger, which then could ascend to a gladiator or to a eternal finally. So yeah, back to the weightings. So these are the base weightings. However, we also have to take the purity multiplier into account. So out of these weightings, we'll have these weightings because we multiply, we basically add 7% to the 40 base value we have here, resulting in 42.8, which will then result in these chances. So if we didn't have the multiplier here, the chances obviously would be just the numbers we have here. But since we multiply and therefore higher this value a bit, then these values back here change also. But as you can see, it's a rather moderate change that's happening here. It's just for the sake of the example, say it would be a 5 purity champion, then yeah, this would be upped from 40% to 44.44% chance of being passed on. So still not a huge game changer, so I can easily see CA tinkering over those numbers. But yeah, let's put it back at that value for the example. And yeah, so basically now we know what the chances are of any of these parts to be passed down as the dominant part of the progeny. So in order to just do a simulation, I'll be... Oh, where's it gone? Okay, let's see again. Ah, there it is. I have a little random number generator in here. So let's just draw a random number. I count down 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. And yeah, for the sake of this example, so this rare part will be passed on. So we put this, take this from the probability table, how they call it, and put it in here, because this is our first winner basically, and the dominant part has then been set. So the next thing we want to fill out would be the recessive 1 gene of the clause. So in order to do this, we just go to this part here and say and follow the instructions basically. It says once the dominant gene is selected, that gene is removed from the probability table and a different gene is selected. So this can't be chosen anymore. So we just delete it from the probability table. And I made it so if these values aren't filled here, then this is the adjusted weighting just goes to 0, and this has not a chance of being drawn again. So this is the first thing we have to do. Is the second one would be recessive 1 gene has a 10% chance of undergoing a random mutation, making the resulting gene completely distinct from either parent. So for this I have put a number in here. Now we have a 10% chance that the completely random gene is passed on here. So none of these 5, so either one of these 5 can be chosen to be filled in here, or a completely random one if we run into this 10% chance. So yeah, let's just run for the sake of the example with the result of this current RNG and say, okay, now we have a random result here. I'll just type in random here, so to reflect that. Could be any, really anything that's being passed on. And yeah, then the only thing that's missing for the clause would be the recessive 2 gene. So let's read on here. The inherited recessive 1 gene is removed from the probability table. So okay, we didn't inherit any because we got a random mutation. So this part would then be moot by my understanding. And any remaining dominant genes are also removed, and a different gene is selected. So that's interesting. This is a dominant gene, and this dominant gene can apparently not be passed on to the recessive 2 gene of the progeny. So this one will be booted too. And then recessive 2 gene also has a 10% chance of undergoing random mutation. Okay, so this could be random too. We could have 2 random mutations in here. So let's just stay again with the current value of the RNG, and it would select this part here. So this part would be moved on here. And yeah, our new champion now has claws. Has the dominant part, so it has a rare death part as claws, and 2 recessive genes. One that could be anything because it's random, and one passed on from here. So yeah, this, and then what you're then going to do is basically rinse and repeat. Do the same thing for the fangs, for the horns, and so on. And yeah, in this case, basically, maybe we do this again for repeating, but maybe a bit quicker. We have 2 parts that are pure, so just fill the multiplier in here. Here we have none, so none obviously can't be given down. So this is an interesting part of the equation too, because this these 40% that chance that has to happen in here. Oh, we need to set the probability of a random result to 0. These 40% are then basically distributed among the other probabilities. So when you breed something which with a part that has none as at the other hero or champion, this gives you an even better chance of getting this this dominant gene passed on, as you can see. So yeah, let's just do this. Okay, the RNG is currently standing on this one, so we will pass this one down. But oh no, D parts can't be passed on. So yeah, so we'll just, for the sake of the example, we do it like it would be. It would be an E part. Yeah, convert it to an E part. And then basically we do the same thing. This one has been taken, so we're deleting this from the probability table, adding those 10% probability of a random result for those recessive genes. Now the RNG is here, so we'd pass on this part. And yeah, this part can't be chosen anyway, so yeah, in this case, this part has been given on, so this is deleted too. And yeah, the third part would be this part, passed on here. And yeah, this would basically be how we'd build a new champion, just by going through the numbers. Of course, in the game this will be automated, and the process that I'm displaying here will be much quicker, basically instantly. But just to show you guys how the calculation behind this works, yeah, I wanted to show you this example. And
yeah, that's super cool. I was gonna ask, I don't know if you want to keep recording, because I was gonna ask something a little bit more in detail.
If it's about this topic, I'm going to keep recording.
So it is. Just essentially, so divine parts are obviously probably going to be valued a lot higher than we thought in that sense, because if you do have divine parts, it'll help your probabilities to pass epic parts down to your children.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right, so D2s will probably guarantee 1 or 2 epic parts as it is.
Well, guarantee is always hard to say with probabilities, but you have good chances, yeah.
Gotcha.
Especially in this example which we had, where a D part basically is matched with a non part.
Yeah.
Okay.
But on the other hand, the downside of this, of course, if this wasn't going to be an Ilgra but a Vitra, which has a 50% chance of happening, then this part will be none on the progeny. So after all, maybe it lowers your chances overall if a D part matches a non part of your counterpart of the other parent.
Gotcha. Yeah, because then it's just annulled essentially, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you have, let's put these numbers back in here. So you see, with no chance of, no chance of this happening, the chance of the D part being passed on here rises to 67%, so 2/3 of a chance instead of 4 out of 10.
So would you say that
But you
idea?
had a 50% chance of a non-part being passed down here, because it could have been a Vitra. So
Right.
if you multiply 50% with this, you'd end up at 33%. So it would be even lower than those 40, or the extra 27 you gain by having
Gotcha.
no part here. So yeah, I think much depends. This example is especially interesting because you also have a D part in its first recessive gene. So
Do you think that it would be ideal, for example, to pair families with the same family? So if I have two whispers, that would probably be the best bet in that sense, because then I'm gonna get the empty slots where they're supposed to go anyway.
yeah, that's an example I was going to make now, anyways. Um, because I don't know yet. I need to dig deeper into it to really have an idea. What's interesting, let's just suppose you have, we take the example you say here and just put in random stuff in here. Then yeah, you'd have one part which is none. So depending on what you have here, you'd pretty surely get you'd have pretty high chances for a recessive one part to be, or for one of those recessive one parts to become a dominant part on the progeny. So what that means is basically that those recessive one parts for those champions that don't have a certain part are going to be extremely interesting, because let's just assume that you have an E part here and an E part here as a recessive gene, and all of a sudden you have a 39% that this is being passed on, a 36% that this is passed on, and yeah, guess what? You have a 3/4 chance to pass an E part on, because you match
Right.
this with those two. Now, if you had different families which had different missing parts, you might have a C part here, for instance, and boom, 66% of passing a C part on, and only 25%. So one out of four instead of, yeah, what was it? 2/3, I believe. No, 3/4. Okay, 1/4 chance of passing out on instead of 3/4 chance. So I could see that your idea of having the same families in here to have a more
Yeah, because I
more
figured I have more probabilities of just maintaining the traits where they need to go.
yeah,
Because
it
if I
might be a bit easier to predict.
Right, because if I take a Kark and I match him with a Whisper, then they both have different empty slots, with which uppens my chances of getting common part in other slots.
Yeah, but my current feeling is that this can be good and bad. So you gotta see from case to case, I believe. In this example we made with E parts as recessive parts, these would be perfect examples, I guess, to match those similar ones up. If you only had C parts here, and then maybe you don't want this to happen, because you basically have 100% chance to pass on a C part. So it may be a trade-off that you say, okay, I know this is going to be a C part, but another part is then almost guaranteed to get really good. Or if you just say, no, I want to have my chances basically by having a rare part here. See, if you put in a rare part just here, you have a 2/3 of a chance to pass that rare part on. So just by not taking, but by having different families or different classes would be the correct term, I believe, in here. To have different classes, this opens up a decent chance to get better value out of this. But yeah, I think it's a calculations that that have to be done and seen case by case a bit. If you have two that you want to breed with each other, then yeah, you'll have to test it out a bit.
Okay, good to know.
Okay, so any more questions? I hope this was understandable.
Yeah, 100%. That was super useful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm interested to.
Sorry, I think Sprite is saying something, but he's super low on voice. I can barely hear him.
Sprite, are you there? Do you want to log off and back in?
Is that better? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you were gonna build sorry bot. If you were gonna build a bot on this, right?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how I will do this, but basically this what we have done manually more or less to basically take two champions and simulate a result. I will try to in any form make available to the community. I don't know yet if it's going to. I think I'll be trying to put it on the website.
Yeah. All that stuff that you do, dude, you need so much recognition because you've literally developed so much for this guild.
Thanks.
That's why as soon as they gave us the option to vote for people, I'm like, I know exactly who I'm voting for.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. And yeah, could be a bot, but right now I would prefer to use my still limited website development knowledge and put it on there.
By the way, when do you want to? I still need to get you that render, don't I? That last one didn't work.
Not sure. I tried it out, but I think it might be a bit too big
Okay,
for
I'll try
the.
smaller. I'll try like 40, 45. Just let me know when you want to sit down and do that tomorrow. I think I'm going to be busy between 11 and 3. So anytime before or after might work.
Yeah, I'll see how I get time off tomorrow. Not sure.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't know. I didn't mean like a bot. Like either it could be either a bot. I'm just fine if you plan to utilize this feature in some way, form, which I guess
No,
you
this
don't put on the
MacGyver's
site.
he's gonna come up with some way to use this for sure, bro. Like his math skills are quantifiable.
Yeah, we'll find a solution anyway to make it to give this basically to the community and make it easy. So basically, the idea is you give two IDs of your champions or prime eternals, and that if it's the website, if it's the bot, anyways, it spits out either probabilities or a simulated result, maybe both, depending on
That's
your
awesome.
choosing. Yeah, details TBD.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
Looks like
to
he's
see
got
what-
his next project.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm super excited to see what two divine kind of PEs or
Yeah, like honestly,
champions.
dude, I feel like he brings more value to my PEs than CA does sometimes. No offense given.
No, he does. Like I appreciate even this whole the gene stuff that recently just came out. Just the way he breaks it down. You know what I'm saying, like literally he goes through the homework, try to simplify
Yeah.
it, make it visual too at the same time.
Yeah, it's like Zero went to Germany and had a baby and just left him over there.
Okay, guys, I think this is starting to be NSFW, so I'm going to shut down the stream.
Going back.
Okay.